Hi, I'm Sarah Renae Clark, and I am excited to share with you my tips on choosing colors that work well together so that you can have more confidence in your planner pages and create beautiful stickers or spreads that just look good. Whether you find choosing colors completely intimidating or you're already a pro at picking the perfect palette, I'm here to give you some quick tips to improve your skills and make choosing colors fun and easy. So I will start by going through some basic tips whenever you're working with colors. Then I will teach you how to use a color wheel to find color matches, and I'll share some of my favorite resources to make this process even easier. So let's jump right in with our first tip. First, choose one dominant color. So pick one color to be the main focus of your project and then choose your other colors to support it based off the tips that we'll cover in this lesson. This main color usually sets the mood. So if you're wanting a dark and moody scene, you might choose a darker main color. If you're wanting a fun and friendly scene, it might be something brighter. And you can really change the warmth of your whole design by leaning more into your warm yellows and oranges, or instead choose the blues to try and go for a cooler, wintry feel. Your other colors can either complement this main color or act as accents to stand out against it, which brings us to tip 2. Use just a few colors if you can. A simple color scheme is usually more visually appealing than one with too many competing colors. So I usually try to stick to 3 to 6 colors, but sometimes I will add a darker or lighter variation of these colors as well, especially if I'm coloring or working on scenes that include realistic lighting or elements. So the more realistic something is, the more variations in color that you will naturally have, but it's still good to keep the main color palette as simple as possible. Tip 3 is look around you for inspiration or use pre-made palettes. I will come back to this later, but there are so many tools available that you can use to save yourself time in choosing colors. So even though we'll be going through the color wheel soon and talking about how to use color harmonies, don't panic if this seems too advanced. You can also just pick up color palettes that other people have already designed and find something that fits the mood you're looking for. In fact, this is my favorite way to choose colors now. Next, test your colors before you begin. So create a small sample, a swatch, or even a digital mock-up to see how the colors work together. It can be super rough. It just needs to be enough for you to visualize the colors for yourself so that you can be confident that you've chosen well and that they work with your media. When I'm doing coloring pages, I sometimes print off a smaller coloring page to do this, or I'll take a photo of the coloring page and quickly color a second version of it on my iPad using the Procreate app so that I can see how the colors look before I start coloring on my final page. Sometimes I'll even do this halfway into a project if I've colored everything and I'm just deciding on that final color for the background or for a particular area that I'm unsure about. But ultimately, you just need to trust your instincts. Regardless of what I teach you today, choose colors that appeal to you and make you happy. If you're drawn to a particular combination, go with it. Don't let anybody tell you how to create your own art. But with all these tips in mind, these are only helpful if you know how to choose colors in the first place. So that brings us to part 2. How do we choose the right colors? So in this section, I'm going to cover how to use the color wheel. We're going to talk about color harmonies, but I am also going to give you some resources on the internet and show you how to use color palettes and how to find inspiration all around you. So first, the color wheel. Using a color wheel can be daunting at first, but it's actually fairly simple and can give you some easy formulas to choose colors that work well together almost every time. So there are a few different types of color wheels, and if you're mixing colors, that is a whole different type of color theory, and you might be told to use a different color wheel to what we're going to use today. But for choosing colors that work well together, any color wheel will work, but my favorite is the red, blue, and yellow color wheel, which is based off the 3 primary colors that most of us learn in school. Your color wheel is made up of the brightest, purest version of each color around the edge, which we also call the hue. Most color wheels use 12 main colors to keep things simple, but you can also use any color that blends in between these when you are choosing your colors. Each color can also be made vibrant or dull by changing the saturation, or darker and lighter by changing the value, which is where we add our blacks or our whites to our colors, and we can also call this tints and shades. Now, I don't want to add too many details to confuse you, but these are what allow us to create a range of reds or a range of blues instead of just relying on the single red or the single blue that we see on our main color wheel. And this all comes to play when we start using the color formulas in our next step, which we also know as color harmonies. Now, you've probably heard of some of these before, so let's see how they work in practice. The first and easiest to use is a monochromatic color harmony. This takes just one base color from our wheel and uses different shades or tints to create a group of colors. A complementary color scheme takes 2 colors from opposite sides of the color wheel, such as red and green or blue and orange. And as you can see from my examples, you don't have to use the most vibrant versions of these colors. You can darken or lighten the values of your colors to create more variations of any of these color harmonies. A split complementary color scheme is similar to complementary colors, except one of the colors is split into 2 nearby colors. This keeps the high contrast of the complementary color scheme, but it also adds a little more variety. A triadic color scheme uses 3 colors that are evenly spaced around the color wheel like a triangle. These color combinations are often bold and vibrant. Tetradic colors are 4 colors in a rectangular shape made up of 2 sets of complementary colors together as one palette. These palettes work best when you focus on one main color and use the other colors as contrasting accents. An analogous color scheme uses 2 to 4 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. This is my personal favorite out of all the color harmonies, and I love using it to design rainbows or gradients. At the start of this lesson, I mentioned an alternative if all of this color wheel stuff is just too confusing. There are some other resources that you can use too, and my favorite of these is to find color palettes that other people have already created. If you search on the internet or Pinterest for color palettes or color schemes, you'll find hundreds of color ideas. My favorite are the ones that give you a photo reference because it allows you to see how the colors can be balanced to look good, and they are often inspired by nature or offer color combinations that you might not come up with on your own, even if you're already an experienced artist. I make my own color palettes on my website and I put them on Pinterest as well. And I have a resource called the Color Catalog that has 250 color palettes sorted by categories and colors to make the process even easier. And if you're someone who likes something more tangible, I've now created a one-of-a-kind color palette collection of cards in the Color Cube to make color selection fun and inspiring. So keeping our tips from earlier in mind, let me show you how easy it is to use a color palette in your planner. So this is one example of how I have used a color palette as a starting point for a planner spread. And then I've also just added a gold to this because this is just a great starting point. Now you might also notice this is an analogous color scheme if you remember what we talked about with the color wheel. But this is a color palette from my color catalog and the Color Cube, like those ones we talked about before. And on the back here, it's got some extra variations as well. And as you can see here, I haven't matched these colors perfectly. I've just used it as a guide. So I've taken the different greens, I've taken some blues, and I've added my own gold to add a bit of flair to this. And then I've just decorated it how I want, but stuck to these colors. And you can see how it's really just brought this page to life. But keeping to these few colors meant that even though the rest of the page is incredibly busy, it's kept it all looking very cohesive. And that was really my goal with this. Another simpler example here is this spread that I've created here where I've used this color palette as a starting point. And I've actually found this sticker book that is based off this same color palette. So these are more pastel colors. And I've found some washi tape that is very similar to these colors as well. I haven't really used the yellow. So again, this is just a guide. I've actually kind of eliminated that and chosen to use the blue, the orange, the green, and the pink. And so the highlighters that I've used are those colors, and the stickers that I've used are those colors. And just by sticking to those 4 colors, although I did sneak in a little purple here as well, by sticking to those 4 main colors, it's kept this page looking really simple, but everything kind of matches really well rather than just looking really chaotic. So again, sometimes it's just a case of sticking to, between 3 to 6 colors is usually ideal, because you've also got your white, you've got your black. In this case, I'm using my coloring planner, so there's a bit more going on here than what you might have in your own planner. But that's another way that you can just use a few colors as well. In this example here, I've actually used the color wheels. So I told you that I liked analogous colors. This here is an analogous color scheme. So to explain how I've done this, now I've got some examples here and you can kind of see this one is a bit similar. These colors here are sort of a bit more neon pastel colors, so you can't actually see them on this wheel. But if we think about these different tones here, we've kind of got a light orangey color and we've got a pink, which can also be a bit of a red with a bit of white added. So we kind of skip over the red here, but we're heading into a lighter red, sort of, trust me on this one. And then we head through our pinks into our purples, into our blues and around to our lighter blues. So we're actually just traveling around the color wheel, which is what an analogous color palette is. It's basically just picking 4 colors around the wheel, whichever part of the wheel you are going around. And by sticking to just those colors and traveling around the wheel and choosing to avoid the other half of the wheel completely, that's created a really cool color scheme here. And I've done the same in these goal sections. So even if we didn't have all the coloring, just by sticking to these few colors, again, it creates a really nice creative color palette that just keeps everything looking very nice. So when you come to doing this for yourself, the best thing to do, like I said, is pick the color that you want to start with first. For me, my favorite color is teal. So I always tend to start with teal, although I do try and challenge myself to pick other colors as well. But I like to pick a color palette that's got teal in it often. Or sometimes I actually just like looking through the color catalog and just picking something from a category. That's always fun, to just look at a keyword and just pick something, or jump on Pinterest and just look up nature or flowers or something or other, just to find a starting point. So that's where the color palettes with the pictures can be a really good starting point, or use the color wheel and just go, I'm just going to pick complementary colors and just start with one color that you like. Once you've done that and once you've got your color, then it's just a case of finding the supplies that you have that match your color palette that you've chosen. And the thing here is that you don't need to be exact. It doesn't have to be perfect. So if you do have stickers, even if it's not like a perfect match sticker set like I've got here, just go through your sticker collection and find whatever you can that is close to the colors in your color palette. So I actually did have these sticker sets designed off these color palettes. And if you're someone who is designing stickers, again, this can be a really good way to create sticker sets that look really good by using color palettes in your sticker sets. But we can also use things like washi tape. And so I've got my big stash of washi tape here, and I'm probably not going to have a perfect match for these colors. In fact, if you've got these cards, you can even flip them over and line them up to find the perfect match. But we just want to find something that's close so that we can kind of create that look. Don't worry about it being perfect. But I've actually got a pretty good match here. It's not like perfect, but it's pretty close to these mint colors. So I'd say that's a good match. This green, again, it's not perfect, but I think that will be a good representation here of our overall color palette. We probably want to get some kind of pink. We could potentially lean into the red, if we wanted to, or if we've got other stickers and other markers, we might not use that red and we might just try and find a pink in some other ways. So we could use this pink, for example. We could even, if we wanted to, adjust this a bit and move more towards a purple. So it's really up to you how you want to tweak it. Or look at this. This might even be a better match. Look at that. So it's up to you how specifically or how close you want to follow the palette, or if you want to go off a little bit and try to find, oh, these are like actually really good matches. And then it's really just a case of trying to find some different supplies that match those colors. That is actually a pretty good match. So we've managed to find some washi tape for 4 of the colors. We don't have our nice raspberry, so we could just use a red, and that palette's pretty cute. Or we could just pull that color out, because when we go to find our markers, we can use a raspberry marker. So we've got a few options here that could work for that. We've also got our lighter colors here that can work for these colors. What else have we got? We've got a teal that's a bit like the mint. And we've got some lighter pinks here. So even just there, we've got a really cute set of markers and washi tape that is a really, really good start for a spread that we want to create. And however you choose to decorate your planner or approach your designs, or even just keeping your writing really simple, if you use these colors and start from here, everything else is going to look just a touch better compared to just picking random colors, because now you've got colors that somehow just look a little better together because you've started with a little bit of help from a color palette. And the best part about this is that even if you're someone who's very good at picking colors, you're not going to pick the same colors every time, because when you pick color palettes, it can challenge you to pick stuff that maybe you might not have tried otherwise. All right, so I think it's time to get a bit more practical and see if we can actually create a spread with this inspiration. Now, obviously your planner might look a little bit different to this. This is my coloring planner. So it has some extra artwork around the side. So you can kind of draw your own artwork in your planner or use some coloring stickers. And you can do this with bullet journaling, or you can do this with a planner like this. It's really just about choosing the colors. So I've also got this other sticker book that I found in my drawer from the Happy Planner. So I'm actually going to grab some inspiration from here as well, because these stickers are not designed to the color palette like this. So I want to show you how you can find these colors in another sticker book that you might have as well. So like this one here is actually a really good match. In fact, a few of these are a really good match. So everyone does their planners differently. Some people put the stickers in first. Some people just like use the markers and just think practically and go as they want. Everyone has a different approach. But we're just going to wing it today, and I'll just show you how I would do this for a spread, and you can obviously adapt it to your own planning style. But the point here is to show you how I use these colors. So here again, this actual sticker book has worked out really well for this particular color palette. We've got a lot of pinks. The red's not quite right, but it's pretty close. And we've got a lot of these actual mint colors as well, which is really cool. Some beautiful long ones here as well. My design today is going to be a little bit all over the place compared to what we might normally do, but it's all about the color. So you might want to plan yours with a little bit more attention than what I'm working on. Look at that, perfect fit. So we can also use our washi tape to decorate some areas. And again, you probably have potentially a better approach than me at actually designing your planner, but it's all about just trying to use the right colors. Dual purpose. Let's try this. It's probably a really good way to rack my cards, actually. Probably shouldn't do that. It's all right, it worked. Let's do it again. Oops, I went a bit short on that one. We'll put a sticker over the top. It's okay. We can fix it. So I'm not really approaching this with any particular plan. I think I've probably spent less time doing my planner and more time coloring than most of you probably watching this. So I hope that despite my amateur planning skills, that you can get an idea of how to actually use colors in your planner in a really fun way. So far I've really tried to stick to these colors. We do have a few different colors in this particular picture, but it's pretty small. Same here, there's a few other colors, like there's the gold in here, but you're talking very, very small details, whereas most of the color is still from this. And we're still getting started. It's not very far yet, doesn't look very fancy yet, but we will get there. Also got this sticker book here from, this one is American Crafts. So we'll see if there's anything in here. We have a few things here that are in our pink range that we could potentially use. We could also throw in some gold. There's no reason you can't add a color to this, especially if it's like a gold or a silver or black or white. Those are really easy colors to add. You can also consider your color wheel as well. So if we think about those different color harmonies, you might find that a palette you already have might fit in a color harmony, and you could easily, like here, we've got a lot of the pinks and we've got a lot of the blue greens. And so if you look at the two of those, let me actually draw a line here. If you look at the two of those colors, that's actually part of almost a tertiary color palette. So if we were to add another color, we could add something from our orange kind of range there. So if you were going to add another color, that's where you could go. That's obviously getting a little bit technical. Sometimes you just got to wing it and just trust your instincts and just go for it. Oh, this plant is cute, and it's our, well, the green's a little bit lighter than our greens, but I think we can probably allow for that. So we'll add that one on there. Now the other stickers I have here will give us our option to customize them ourselves. This is my coloring sticker sheet. So these are part of a set that I actually make, and I think we could probably find something here to add that we can then color in whatever color we want, so we can actually then really make them work with our spread. Now I am considering that we've got a bit of a cake theme on the outside, and I've totally broken away from that with my spread in the middle. So I'm wondering if there might even be some cakes in here. I might have the wrong book for cakes. I've got a donut. Oh, we've got some cupcakes and some donuts. Can't say no to donuts. All right, where was that spot I wanted to fix? Hang on, there's a hole in there. That's better. Starting to run out of room to actually write things, aren't we? Just like it looking pretty. Don't we all? All right. Well, keeping that in mind, maybe it's time to move on to some markers and actually put in some different events. Now, if you're working in a week spread and you don't have everything planned right away, you could always just keep these particular colors out and put them in a cup on your desk or something like that, so that as you go through your week, you end up only using those colors to keep everything consistent. Or if you have everything planned ahead, well, then that's easy and you can just write as you go.
Now, I've just realized these particular pens are a chisel tip and a brush tip, which is a little bit trickier to write with than some of my others, but we will work with it. So our weekend, we can have, breakfast with Shane, my lovely husband. Breakfast with Shane. We can send ourselves a reminder to do the shopping. Well, okay, that's not going to work with these big, thick textures, is it? Shopping. We can also use these for colouring if you've got a planner that's thick enough to handle markers like this, or you could just use pencils. I picked probably the worst colour to do icing on a donut, let's be honest. Who wants to eat green donut icing? I should have used the pink. Pink would have been a much better choice for donut icing. Let's use the pink on the other one. Oh, that's not a nice pink. That's not the pink that I thought it was. It looked better on the tip. This is why we should swatch our colours first. Yeah, so that's a lot brighter than I probably thought. It doesn't look like the tip at all. That happens a lot, doesn't it? All right, I'm going to go darker. Unless I have here, my Tombow markers might be better. Oh, there we go. That's a bit better, although that's a bit purple. We're going to find another colour. Here we go. They're just not quite right, are they? All right, that one's pretty close. I think we might even just go with that, unless this next one. You know what? I think that last one's the winner. It works well with some of these other colours I've already got. So even though it might not look like the most delicious pink icing, I think it's going to work with our colour scheme. Because I already started the other colour, it was showing through, so we'll just layer it on top. All right, at least the Tombow ones have a smaller tip. That's a bonus. All right, so what else can we have in the evening? Can we just make it more food-related stuff? Let's have coffee date with Natalie at 3 p.m. And see if I have a Tombow in my greens. That's pretty good. Thursday, we should probably pick up the kids from school. No actual work happening in this planner, but that's okay. This is looking pretty plain. I feel like it needs more to it, but at the same time, there's only so much you can fill before you actually just run out of room to actually plan everything that you need planning for. So we might leave it pretty simple. What else have we got here that we can add? Let's have our thing for having water every day, maybe reading books. Reading. These are like little habit trackers, so we can tick them off as we go with whatever colours. I hope that this is enough that you get the idea. As you can see, we've really tried to stick to these colours. The only real exception is the green of my little plan here. But overall, this all looks pretty cohesive and it works pretty well together. I know a lot of people do a much better job of actually decorating their planner, but probably also spend more than 10 minutes trying to put it together and actually have real plans. So you usually would spend a bit more time thinking about how you might actually pull this together. But it was fun to have a bit of a go. We might try another one on a completely different type of planner. I might grab out a bullet journal for this next one and we'll try a completely different color palette just to see how to approach this on something totally different. All right, for our second example, we're going to try a bullet journal, a bullet journal spread, because I've actually been working on some new bullet journals for my website, which is very exciting. But I've got some options here. I was thinking we could try something a little bit more ambitious and try one of these, although, oh, see, I really want to try this one, but I'm not sure if I have any kind of brown washi tape or stickers, because I tend to pick really bright stuff. But that makes me really curious to try this, even more so. So I think I'm going to take on this challenge. We're going to put this one away. We're going to see if we can work with this color palette and find some supplies for this. So first things first, let's have a look in our washi tape and see what we've potentially got that could work for this. So we do have, this is a patterned one and it's kind of this color. So we could probably try that. I feel like we could potentially get these blues, but this is almost more like a denim jeans blue. So we might need to lean into something more like this with the patterns on it if we're going to try and make that work. Because I feel like most of my other blues are way too bright blue. That's not necessarily a bad thing. We might be able to make that work. So we could pull out a few options and then just pick something and see how we go. So if we can't find this one to work, then maybe we will lighten the blue and see if we can just get a normal blue to work. Because if we change that color over, that's still a pretty good color palette. But let's see if we can do this first. This actually looks like a little collection of stickers that fit some of our browns. So we'll pull that one out. Black. No, that's not even a black. It's like a really, really dark, almost like a Payne's grey. But I feel like if we needed to, we could replace that with black and it would still work. And then we've got this really light sort of bone colour, I guess. So I don't really have anything that really fits that colour at all. So this is going to be a challenge. Sometimes it's fun to challenge ourselves. Or we can just adapt it as we go. So what's this? I don't even know what this picture is. I think it's tiny bats. Probably not what I'm going for. That may be an option. Or maybe... I actually do have a new set that I bought that has some blacks. But I'm not sure that I want to go as dark as black either. So these are some other options we could work with. But I think we'll put them aside. I don't think I'm going to have any room for them in my little collection here. We'll come back to that. So these are our starting options that we've got. It's not overly promising so far, but we do have a bit of a palette going on. It's still an interesting spread so far. I like it. So let's grab a scrap piece of paper. We'll use the back of my colour wheel. And let's find ourselves some markers that look like these colours. All right, that's a good start. That's pretty close for a starting point. If I flip this over, we can actually match it right up against the edge. I'd say that's a pretty good first shot. We want our chocolate. I'm actually really happy with those two first options. All right, this is more like that color that we're looking for. Look at that. Lucky first three. And that one's not quite the right shade. We want some, oh, that's a lot darker than I thought it was going to be. We want something with a tiny bit more green in it. But they're not, they're all very, they're more blue. But they could still work. What have we got over in our other range over here? I'd rather use the water-based markers because they're not going to go through the paper. if I used alcohol ones, then we're not going to be able to do anything on the back of this. So maybe we will use this one. We're going to adjust the palette slightly because we can do that. And we're going to go a little bit more towards a grey and away from this little greeny grey. So we're adjusting the palette. Now all we need is our blue grey. So it might be in a different stash. Close. That's not perfect, but I actually really like that. Okay, I think these are my markers. So there's my markers for this color palette. And here's my washi tape. We're going to scrap the black. It's just a question of, do we do the lighter blue or the darker blue? It's kind of really just down to personal preference at that point. I think I'm going to go the darker blue. So we're going to use 2 washi and the rest we're going to do with markers. Bullet channeling skills put to the test. Let's do this. Oh, I like these ones. Even feeling like getting a little bit fancy and doing a bit of a Dutch door. I'm going to cut along the lines. Yes, it's okay to cut your journals. Okay, and then we're going to cut this bit out, maybe with a different knife. All right, here we go. So there's our little, nice little double spread, and we only have to write the title once. Now, I haven't actually decided what this spread is for. So maybe we can make this like maybe a weekly spread or goals. See, I haven't even decided. All right. Oh, lettering. Let's point me to someone else who's doing a really good class on lettering in this thing. All right. I'm a little bit embarrassed by that lettering, but it's okay. We'll be okay. We'll pretty it up with some stickers so that I don't feel so bad about it. There we go. Much, much better already. Stickers fix everything. There we go. I'm happy with that now. I think I'd feel better if I rule this out with a pencil first to at least count my lines, and then we can work from there. Grab my kneaded eraser. If you don't have one of these, they are amazing. No crumbs on the page. Okay, so we're actually going to start from there. In fact, that might be too far in. Let's move over. So we're going to start from this side and this side. And then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll try that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, nailed it. Look at that. All right, so there's our boxes. And then we want to have a little bit of room to put like a little heading on each one. So we'll kind of leave that space there to write that in. And so then we'll create our box to actually write our goals. So we'll do that down here. And we probably want to create, say, 1, 2, 1, 2, I would think. We'll start a new one, except we need to leave a double space. So it starts there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That gives us just enough room at the bottom to write some extra notes, and I think that's a pretty good way to do it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do our outlines of our box with the brown, or maybe with the grey. See, I'm overthinking it, but that's okay. That's what it's for. Let's use the light grey. I'm going to curve that first bit. It's handy because we've got the dot, so we can just curve from the dot to the dot. And then here. Great. We're on the right track, everyone. So let's rub out all of our pencil marks. So I'm finding this more challenging than when I do things like coloring pages because I'm used to sort of having just things to color and I just add the color. But obviously doing something like a planner, there's a lot more that needs to go on the page than just color. So I probably am not the expert at this compared to so many of you that use your planners all the time and that are absolute planner experts at this. So I can't wait to see how you use colors to a much more professional and much better degree than what I can. But I hope that everything that I'm showing you is giving you some inspiration and is helping in some way to show you how just a simple change of picking the colors first can actually help just to pull everything together maybe a little bit more and help give you a bit more direction where maybe you might have felt a bit lost before in how to actually pick those colors. So as much as this page, I'm looking at it going, it's not as colorful as I would have hoped, not because of the choices of colors, but because of all the white space. At the same time, I do look at it and go, I don't know what else to add because I'm quite happy with it. There's not much more to add to this. And I do think that the colors pull together quite well. You might choose to switch things around, like instead of the brown for the titles, you could use the blue for the titles and use the brown for the frames or something like that, maybe to bring a bit more color rather than the light gray. There are ways that you could have approached this differently. And I'd really like to see from some people that have a bit more experience in their planners showcasing some of these different color things that you've learned today. So please, if you do that and if you post them on Instagram or anything like that, tag me because I would love to see them and love to see what you come up with and hear how this has helped you today. If you would like to explore color further, I regularly share my process for choosing colors in my own projects on my YouTube channel. And you can find more about the color catalog and the color cube at the link below this video. I've also got a free coloring book available to share with you if you would like to join my email newsletter. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this session was helpful and inspiring and that you are having a great event so far.